Good evening, creatures. I couldn't pass this one up. Tonight, an author who is better known for a story about euthanasia, but also crafted a collection of short stories for her children, one of which is The New Mother by Lucy Clifford. The children were always called Blue Eyes and the Turkey, and they came by the names in this manner. The elder one was like her dear father who was far away at sea, and when the mother looked up, she would often say, "Child, you have taken the pattern of your father's eyes." For the father had the bluest of blue eyes, and so gradually his little girl came to be called after those. The younger one had once, while she was still but almost a baby, cried bitterly because a turkey that lived near the cottage and sometimes wandered into the forest suddenly vanished in the middle of winter, and to console her she had been called by its name. Now the mother and Blue Eyes and Turkey and the baby all lived in a lonely cottage on the edge of the forest. The forest was so near that the garden at the back seemed a part of it, and the tall fir trees were so close that their big black arms stretched over the little thatched roof, and when the moon shone upon them, their tangled shadows were all over whitewashed walls. It was a long way to the village, nearly a mile and a half, and the mother had to work hard and had not the time to go often herself to see if there was a letter at the post office from the dear father. And so, very often, in the afternoon, she used to send the two children. They were very proud of being able to go alone, and often ran half the way to the post office. When they came back, tired with the long walks, there would be the mother waiting and watching for them, and the tea would be ready, and the baby crowing with delight, and if by any chance there was a letter from the sea, they were happy indeed. The cottage room was so cozy. The walls were as white as snow inside as well as out, and against them hung the cake tin and the baking dish and the lid of the large saucepan that had been worn out so long before the children could remember, and the fish slice all polished and shining as bright as silver. On one side of the fireplace above the bellows hung the almanac, and on the other the clock that always struck the wrong hour and was always running down too soon. But it was a good clock, with a little picture on its face, and sometimes ticked away for nearly a week without stopping. The baby's high chair stood in one corner, and another there was a cupboard hung up high against the wall, to which the mother kept all manners of little surprises. The children often wondered how the things that came out of that cupboard had got into it, for they seldom saw them put in there. "Dear children," the mother said one afternoon late in the autumn, "it is very chilly for you to go to the village, but you must walk quickly, and who knows but what you may bring back a letter saying that dear father is already on his way back to England." Then Blue Eyes and the Turkey made haste and were soon ready to go. "Don't be long," the mother said, as she always did before they started. "Go the nearest way, and don't look at any strangers you meet, and be sure you do not talk with them." "No, mother," they answered, and then she kissed them and called them dear, good children, and they joyfully started on their way. The village was gayer than usual, for there had been a fair the day before, and the people who made merry still hung about the street as if reluctant to own that their holiday was over. "I wish we had come yesterday," Blue Eyes said to the turkey. "Then we might have been seeing something." "Look there," said the turkey, and she pointed to a stall covered with gingerbread. But the children had no money. At the end of the street, close to the Blue Lion, where the coaches stop, an old man sat on the ground with his back resting against the wall of a house. And by him, with smart collars round their necks, were two dogs. Evidently they were dancing dogs, and the children thought and longed to see them perform. But they seemed as tired as their master, and sat quite beside him, looking as if they had not even a single wag left in their tails. "Oh, I do wish we had been here yesterday," Blue Eyes said again as they went on to the grocer's, which was also the post office. The postmistress was very busy weighing out half a pound of coffee, and when she had time to attend to the children, she just only said, "No letter for you today," and went on with what she was doing. Then Blue Eyes and the turkey turned away to go home. They went back slowly down the village street, past the man with the dogs again. One dog had roused himself and sat up rather crookedly, with his head a good deal on one side, looking very melancholy and rather ridiculous. But on the children went, towards the bridge and the fields that led to the forest. They had left the village and walked some way, and then, just before they reached the bridge, they noticed, resting against a pile of stones by the wayside, a strange dark figure. At first they thought it was someone asleep. Then they thought it was a poor woman, ill and hungry, and then they saw it was a strange, wild-looking girl who seemed very unhappy, and they felt sure that something was the matter. So they went on and looked at her, and thought they would ask her if they could help anything, for they were kind children, and sorry indeed for anyone in distress. The girl seemed to be tall, and was about 15 years old. She was dressed in very ragged clothes. Round her shoulders there was an old brown shawl, which was torn in the corner that hung down in the middle of her back. She wore no bonnet, and an old yellow handkerchief, which she had tied round her head, had fallen backwards and was all huddled up around her neck. Her hair was coal black, and hung down uncombed and unfastened, just anyhow. It was not very long, but it was very shiny, and seemed to match her bright black eyes and dark freckled skin. On her feet were coarse gray stockings and thick shabby boots, which she had evidently forgotten to lace up. She had something hidden away underneath her shawl, but the children did not know what it was. At first they thought it was a baby, but when, on seeing them coming towards her, she carefully put it under her shawl and sat upon it, they thought they must be mistaken. She was watching the children approach, and did not move or stir until they were within a yard of her. Then she wiped her eyes, just as she had been crying bitterly, and looked up. The children stood in front of her for a moment, staring at her and wondering what they ought to do. "Are you crying?" they asked shyly. To their surprise, she said in the most cheerful voice, "Oh, dear, no, quite the contrary. Are you?" They thought it was rather rude of her to reply in this way, for anyone could see that they were not crying. They felt half in mind to walk away, but the girl looked at them so hard with her bright black eyes that they did not like to do it until they had said something else. "Perhaps you've lost yourself?" they said gently. But the girl answered promptly, "Certainly not. Why, you have just found me. Besides," she added, "I live in the village." The children were surprised at this, for they had never seen her there before, and yet they thought they knew all the village folk by sight. "We often go to the village," they said, thinking it might interest her. "Indeed," she answered. That was all, and again they wondered what to do. Then the turkey, who had an inquiring mind, put a good straightforward question. "What are you sitting on?" she asked. "On a pear drum," the girl answered, still speaking in a more cheerful voice, at which the children wondered, for she looked very cold and uncomfortable. "What is a pear drum?" they asked. "I am surprised at your not knowing," the girl answered. "Most people in good society have one." And then she pulled it out and showed it to them. It was a curious instrument, a good deal like the guitar in shape. It had 3 strings, but only 2 pegs by which to tune them. The 3rd string was never tuned at all, and thus added to the singular effect produced by the village girls' music. And yet, oddly, the pear drum was not played by touching the strings, but by turning a little handle cunningly hidden on one side. But the strange thing about the pear drum was not the music it made, or the strings, or the handle, but a little square box attached to one side. The box had a little flat lid that appeared to open by a spring. That was all the children could make out at first. They were most anxious to see inside the box or to know what it contained, but they thought it might look curious to say so. "It really is a beautiful thing, is a pear drum," the girl said, looking at it and speaking in a voice that was almost affectionate. "Where did you get it?" the children asked. "I bought it," the girl answered. "Didn't it cost a great deal of money?" they asked. "Yes," answered the girl slowly, nodding her head. "It cost a great deal of money. I am very rich," she added. And this the children thought a really remarkable statement, for they had not supposed that rich people dressed in old clothes or went about without bonnets. She might at least have done her hair, though they thought, but they did not like to say so. "You don't look rich," they said slowly, and in as polite voice as possible. "Perhaps not," the girl answered cheerfully. At this, the children gathered courage and ventured to remark, "You look rather shabby," and they did not like to say ragged. "Indeed," said the girl in the voice of one who had heard a pleasant but surprising statement. "A little shabbiness is very respectable," she added in a satisfied voice. "I must really tell them this," she continued, and the children wondered what she had meant. She opened the little box on the side of the pear drum and said, just as if she were speaking to someone who could hear her, "They say I look rather shabby. It is quite lucky, isn't it?" "Why, you are not speaking to anyone," they said, more surprised than ever. "Oh dear, yes, I am speaking to them both." "Both?" they said, wondering. "Yes. I have here a little man dressed as a peasant and wearing a wide slouch hair with a large feather, and a little woman to match dressed in a red petticoat and white handkerchief pinned across her bosom. I put them on the lid of the box, and when I play they dance most beautifully. The little man takes off his hat and waves it in the air, and the little woman holds up her petticoats a little bit to one side with one hand, and the other sends forward a kiss." "Oh, do let us see, do let us see," the children cried both at once. And then the village girl looked at them doubtfully. "Let you see," she said slowly. "Well, I am not sure I can. Tell me, are you good?" "Yes, yes," they answered eagerly. "We are very good." "Then it's quite impossible," she answered, and resolutely closed the lid of the box. They stared at her in astonishment. "But we are good," they cried, thinking that she must have misunderstood them. "We are very good. Mother always says we are." "So you remarked before," the girl said, speaking in a tone of decision. Still, the children did not understand. "Then, can't you let us see the little man and the little woman?" they asked. "Oh dear, no," the girl answered. "I can only show them to naughty children." "To naughty children!" they exclaimed. "Yes, to naughty children," she answered. "And the worse the children, the better do the man and woman dance." She put the pear drum carefully under her ragged cloak and prepared to go on her way. "I really could not have believed you were good," she said reproachfully, as if they had accused themselves of some great crime. "Well, good day." "Oh, but do show us the little man and the woman," they cried. "Certainly not. Good day," she said again. "Oh, but we will be naughty," they said in despair. I'm afraid you couldn't, she answered, shaking her head. It requires a great deal of skill, especially to be naughty well. Good day, she said for the third time. Perhaps I shall see you in the village tomorrow. And swiftly she walked away, while the children felt their eyes fill with tears and their hearts ache with disappointment. If we'd only been naughty, they said, we should have seen them dance. We should have seen the little woman holding her red petticoat in her hand and the little man wearing his hat. Oh, what shall we do to make her let us see them? Suppose, said the turkey, we try to be naughty today. Perhaps she will let us see them tomorrow. But, oh, said Blue Eyes, I don't know how to be naughty. No one ever taught me. The turkey thought for a few minutes in silence. I think I can be naughty if I try, she said. I'll try tonight. And the poor Blue Eyes burst into tears. Oh, don't be naughty without me, she cried. It would be so unkind of you. No, I want to see the little man and the little woman just as much as you do. You are very, very unkind. And she sobbed bitterly. And so, quarreling and crying, they reached their home. Now, when their mother saw them, she was greatly astonished, and fearing they were hurt, ran to meet them. Oh, my children! Oh, my dear, dear children! She said. What is the matter? But they did not tell their mother about the village girl and the little man and woman, so they answered, Nothing is the matter. Nothing at all is the matter. And they cried all the more. But why are you crying? She asked in surprise. Surely we may cry if we like, they sobbed. We are very fond of crying. Poor children, the mother said to herself. They are tired, and perhaps they are hungry. After tea they will be better. And she went back to the cottage and made the fire blaze until the reflection danced about on the tin lids upon the walls, and she put the kettle on to boil, and set the tea things on the table, and opened the window to let in the sweet, fresh air, and made all the things look bright. Then she went to the little cupboard, hung up high against the wall, and took out some bread and put it on the table, and said in a loving voice, Dear little children, come and have your tea. It is all quite ready for you. And see, there is the baby waking up from her sleep. We will put her in the high chair, and she will crow at us while we eat. But the children made no answer to the dear mother. They only stood by the window and said nothing. Come, children, the mother said again. Come, Blue Eyes, and come, my turkey. Here's the nice sweet bread for tea. Then Blue Eyes and the turkey looked around, and when they saw the tall loaf baked crisp and brown, and the cups all in a row, and the jug of milk all waiting for them, they went to the table and sat down and felt a little happier. And the mother did not put the baby in the high chair after all, but took it on her knee and danced it up and down and sang little snatches of songs to it and laughed and looked content and thought of the father far away at sea and wondered what he would say to them when he came home again. Then suddenly she looked up and saw that the turkey's eyes were full of tears. Turkey, she exclaimed, my dear little turkey, what is the matter? Come to mother, my sweet, come to own mother. And putting the baby down on the rug, she held out her arms, and Turkey, getting up from her chair, came swiftly into them. Oh, mother, she sobbed. Oh, dear mother, I do so want to be naughty. My dear child, the mother exclaimed. Yes, mother, the child sobbed more and more bitterly. I do want to be very, very naughty. And then Blue Eyes left her chair also, and rubbing her face against her mother's shoulder, cried sadly, And so do I, mother. Oh, I'd give anything to be very, very naughty. But, my dear children, said the mother in astonishment, why do you want to be naughty? Because we do. Oh, what shall we do? They cried together. I should be very angry if you were naughty, but you could not be, for you love me, the mother answered. Why couldn't we be naughty because we love you? they asked. Because it would make me very unhappy, and you love me. You couldn't make me unhappy. Why couldn't we? They asked. Then the mother thought a while before she answered, and when she did, so that they hardly understood, perhaps because she seemed to be speaking rather to herself than them. Because, if one loves well, she said gently, one's love is stronger than all the bad feelings in one, and conquers them. And this is the test whether love be real or false. Unkindness and wickedness have no power over it. We don't know what you mean, they cried, and we do love you, but we want to be naughty. Then I should know you did not love me, the mother said. And what should you do? Asked Blue Eyes. I cannot tell. I should try to make you better. But if you couldn't, and we were very, very, very naughty, and it wouldn't be good, what then? Then, said the mother sadly, and while she spoke her eyes filled with tears, and a sob almost choked her. Then, she said, I should have to go away and leave you, and to send home a new mother, with glass eyes and a wooden tail. You couldn't, they cried. Yes, I could, she answered in a low voice, but it would make me very unhappy, and I will never do it unless you are very, very naughty, and I am obliged. We won't be naughty, they cried. We will be good, and we should hate a new mother, and she shall never come here. And they clung to their own mother and kissed her fondly. But when they went to bed, they sobbed bitterly, for they remembered the little man and the little woman, and longed more than ever to see them. But how could they bear to let their own mother go away, and a new one take her place? Chapter 2 to follow.